I know you had to go through all the ice to get here, so welcome. Our special guest today includes Bob Livesey, Town of Highland Falls Supervisor, Cullen Lyons, Mayor Maloney Rep, Joe D'Onofrio, Highland Falls Mayor, James O'Donnell, Orange County Legislator, James Motlin, Chamber of Commerce, L'Oreal Patel, Legislator for Orange County, Christian Silvis, Veteran and Military Advisor, and Jay Brisman, owner of West Point Tours. Thank you for being here to share in this special event. The West Point Visitor Center is the awe-inspiring front door to the Academy for graduates, friends, and the American public. And at this time, I'd like to introduce Todd Brown, President and CEO of the West Point Association of Graduates, to say a few words.
Okay, how about that view back there, huh? That's really the million-dollar view. It's great to see all my fellow residents from the village and town in Orange County. You know, the West Point Association of Graduates' mission is to serve West Point and the Long Gray Line. And the Malek West Point Visitor Center is a great example of how the Alumni Association partners with the Academy. The planning, fundraising, and construction of this spectacular facility is the product of many people's passion, dedication, and support. The association is proud to be able to offer top-flight facilities to West Point. And though it takes all of us to come together to ensure a building of this size and prominence comes to fruition, we owe a special debt of gratitude to Fred Malek, class of 1959, for stepping forward as our lead donor. Fred's dedication to his alma mater is not only evident in his philanthropy, but also in his service as a West Point volunteer. It's now my pleasure to introduce the 59th Superintendent of the United States Military Academy, Lieutenant General Robert Caslen Jr.
Good morning, everybody. How are you doing? It's great to see all of you. Thank you very much for coming. Thank you for coming in the weather. We were wondering whether or not the roads are going to be okay this morning, but I'm so glad that you're here. I know that you're marveling not only of this podium over here, but also of the view behind me, but really the person or the thing I'm marveling at is the view over there to my left, and that's the Commander-in-Chief trophy. Brought back here after 2 decades. So if you want to take pictures, I direct your pictures over there. Don't take your pictures over here, because that's a real accomplishment. But no, we're really glad to be able to have that here. So you got the Commander-in-Chief trophy, first time in 21 years that we've had it back here at West Point. And then you have the trophy that we got from the bowl game afterwards. So we're very proud of our Army football team, the Corps Cadets, during the Army Navy football game and during the bowl game, frankly, all season. I think if America wants to see what's right with America, all they have to do is to see the grit and the tenacity of that football team on the field, that never quit attitude, and the relentlessness that it would take. And when America puts the Army in harm's way, boots on the ground, America doesn't expect us just to go out there and look good. They want us to go out there and accomplish mission to win. So when they saw their Army football team out there performing, they saw a group of men representing the Corps Cadets, representing the United States Army, that will represent the United States of America very well. So we're very proud of all that, especially this past year bringing it back here. So as you know, the history of West Point is very rich. It's phenomenal history, and you can see why because of the Hudson River back there. And those of you that aren't exactly familiar with it, I'm not a historian, but the British strategy back in the Revolutionary War was to dominate and have freedom of navigation up and down the Hudson River, all the way from New York City to Saratoga, all the way up in the north. And George Washington, understanding what the British wanted to do, wanted to deny them that freedom of navigation. So he found a point of land on the western bank, where the river, as you know, flows from the north to the south, and it does that, that turn, and it goes to the east a little bit, then it starts heading south again. So any ship that's going to be sailing has got to navigate through that turn. They've got to stop. They've got to turn 90 degrees, and they become very vulnerable. So the strategic piece of land that is West Point becomes very important during the Revolutionary War. And then on top of that, George Washington had this chain that was built, as you know, a piece of it is still on Trophy Point, that he floated across the river, and the British knew that it was impenetrable. And if they were going to attack the river or open up the river, they're going to have to attack by land. And Washington was smart enough to put a series of redoubts all the way from Fort Montgomery, all the way up through here in Highland Falls, where West Point is, and even to the north. And those were all mutually supporting that would deny any ground attack, not only on this side, but on the other side. So it's an incredible history. The United States Military Academy was founded in 1802 by our third president, Thomas Jefferson, because as the United States was expanding to the west, he needed some engineers to facilitate that expansion. And up to that point, all of our engineers that we had in the Revolutionary War were imported from Europe. Kosciuszko from Poland is an example, one of the engineers that really put the fortresses in at West Point. And so he wanted to have a college that was going to train and develop engineers to facilitate the westward expansion. And in 1802, he founded the United States Military Academy for that purpose. And since then, as you know, the United States Military Academy not only had played an important part of our history early on, but it had produced leaders that would lead and mark and develop our history as the years went on. And one of the famous quotes in our history department is, "We teach the history of those whom we had previously taught in previous years." It's a pretty fascinating history of what West Point has done for our country. And it's a great story to tell, and it's a story that we want to share with as many people as we can. So as Todd was saying, the Visitor Center opened up in last October, thanks to the great generosity of all of our donors. All of what you see in this building was financed by donors. None of it was financed by the United States government or by your tax dollars. And that's important because that illustrates how much of our donors really believe in the United States Military Academy and to get the message of the United States Military Academy to so many different people that come through here. And so it is a state-of-the-art visitor center. The principal donor was Fred Malek from the class of 1959, and he recognized the importance of this facility to get the message out to men and women of the United States of America and elsewhere that would come through here. And he felt it was so tremendously important. Our mission at West Point is to educate, train, and inspire leaders of character. And when you walk through here, as some of you had just done, and see the displays, and you can see the character development and the intellectual and military and physical development that the cadets go through to all the way to the very end after 4 years, where they throw that hat in the air and go out there and lead America's sons and daughters. What's also important about the Visitor Center being here is that we get the opportunity not to embed this into, the fortress of West Point. We get to lay it out at the front gates right there within our neighbors' community, because we at West Point understand the importance of us to have a strong and a great relationship with our neighbors. And having this right almost within Highland Falls, the entrance of West Point shared with the main street of Highland Falls, is, I think, a tremendous opportunity for us to also expand West Point and West Point's story with the many people of Highland Falls, Fort Montgomery, the neighboring towns and cities, and the visitors that come through our towns. And one of our goals and objectives is to get every single visitor that comes on this side of the road, and after they come here, to also have the opportunity to visit all the stores and restaurants and cafes on the other side of the road as well. Because we understand how important it is that we have that strong relationship with our neighbors. So in that regard, those of you that are here from all the neighboring towns and cities and everything, thank you so much for being here. Thanks for taking the time. We are committed to use the West Point Visitor Center not only to tell the West Point story, but we're committed to bring business and to bring goodwill and enterprise of the many hundreds of thousands of visitors that come to West Point every year, to also share the stories of Highland Falls, Fort Montgomery, and the neighboring towns as well. So thank you very much for being here, and we look forward to telling you some more of our stories, some more of the Visitor Center here this morning. A special thanks to our guides, our volunteer, and our lieutenant. And if you have any questions at all from what you saw, or any questions about the building itself, or some of the future partnerships that we can do, please let me know, and I look forward to talking with you about it. So again, welcome, and really special that you're here, and I very much appreciate it. Go Army, and beat Navy, and keep the trophy back here.